Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? We have a great guest today, and I'm excited to introduce him, Brian Monahan. Monahan is a true inspiration and a guide for those looking to take action. How's your action these days? It's all about the action. You can't get sitting there on the sofa going, you can do it. Just take action, the first little step. And he's a guide for those trying to unlock how to do that and unleash their passion, your passion. He has over 20 years experience in the event industry, and he has the unique opportunity to work with and learn from some of the world's most unique, influential authors, speakers, and dignitaries. Through his journey, Brian has realized the importance of taking action to discover and unleash one's passion. This revelation led him to write his first book, Customer Delight 365, with the beautiful honeycomb behind me, and he'll tell you about the little secret niche inside the book. So, during the pandemic, he rediscovered his passion for assisting coaches and speakers and creators in writing their first book through his unique 90-day knockout program. Wouldn't you like an easy 90-day knockout program to get your book out the door? Yeah, he's got a two-pronged program on that. And his approach is simple, yet powerful. And your passion will follow. Without further ado, let's bring on Brian Monahan. Woohoo!
I'm
Brian
here.
Monahan, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, in person.
In person.
That is wisdom and make it easier for you. Are you looking to write a book? Are you looking to have an event? What else do you need help with? How do you need to get off that couch or wherever you are and get your passion going? Because Brian's doing that right now, and he does it on two different levels with his day job and his passion job. And look at him with his new background. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Cynthia. I'm super proud to be here. Your show is the very first podcast with my new backdrop. So, I mean, you get to claim that forever. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today. And then, I'm jealous. I'm looking at your backdrop and I'm like, I need to go to that backdrop. I love it.
It would be very appropriate for you.
I know. I mean, I'm like, that's why we do these things. So we learn from each other.
It's true. It's true. It's true. It makes it so much fun. So tell us about the journey from event industry to becoming an author and a motivational speaker.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the typical journey. I don't know that there's a path from audiovisual technician to coaching keynote speakers, author, or other coaches on writing a book, but that just happened to be the way it went for me. Now, part of it is, obviously being in the industry of people being on stages. I got exposed to a lot of different keynote speakers. I've always been a student of personal development myself. And so I knew I always wanted to write my own book. And so, I guess it was, my daughter was about starting kindergarten. Actually, I remember, because that's when I actually had to drop her off to school super early, too early for kindergarten. And I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to take 3 days a week, and I'm going to go to the coffee shop on the 3 days that I drop her off, and I'm going to take an hour to focus on writing a book. And, so that's, I knew, and I made this decision for myself. I'm like, hey, I've been in the hospitality, and, although you think I've been in the event industry, as we mentioned, I'm actually in the hospitality industry at the end of the day. We provide event technology for corporate events, associations, but we always pride ourselves in the way we approach it. How do we provide that, excellent service to the end client? How do we focus on the end stakeholders? And so I'm like, if I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write about customer service. That's a topic I know like the back of my hand. And I think that, so I know some people are going to be tuning in tonight, like, how do you start to write a book? I say, write a book about something and something you love. And so that's what I did for myself. And I stumbled on to a book format that I didn't know would be what I coach people on. So I'd love to chat about that at some point today, but that's kind of like my evolution. So, fast forward to 2020. Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to talk about 2020, or have we moved on? Or
hey, it's all about you, Brian. You can do it. Right. I do want to mention that Grace Cavalieri is here, and she is an author and a poet, and she's written over 28 books.
Shoo.
Yeah.
Well, Grace, we need to bring you on.
She's very interested. What is the book format? Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, why don't we go into that a little bit? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. You want to do
Yeah.
that and then hit your 2020, or are they combined?
Yeah, they're combined. So when I wrote my book in 2016, it actually by chance it released on Valentine's Day weekend. I
Oh,
wanted to, so my book, Customer Delight 365, is a daily inspirational for customer service professionals. And the idea behind the book was that, it's tough to be in customer service and you need some daily motivation. And so I built the book that you could open up and look any day and get a quote. And, let's just do this live for the heck of it. What's today, June 26th?
correct.
All right. So I went ahead and marked it in my book. And so, if you're a customer service professional, you're going to pull out the book. And I actually have a quote from Joel Osteen, and this ain't necessarily a religious book, but, he's one of the large televangelist. But hey, it says, keep a good attitude and do the right thing, even when it's hard. When you do that, you are passing the test, and God promises you your marked moments are on their way. And so that's from Joel Osteen. But what makes my book unique, and this is about the format, is I don't just have a book of quotes. I have some passages about customer service. And so my take on that is true customer delight is often won when times are tough. It's easy to keep a good attitude on a sunny day, but when the storm rolls in, that is an opportunity to create a customer for life. And it's a marked moment with your client, and they will remember how you handled that moment. And so, there's all kinds of studies in customer service that says when you actually have an issue and you handle it correctly, your loyalty goes up infinitely. And so, the idea is actually sometimes we hope we screw up because I get an opportunity to make it right. So that's kind of like the essence of this book, is to be able to have a daily piece that you can do quickly. It's very accessible. And the only problem is, and this is what I found out in 2020, is it's a very thick book, 365 entries. And we have some common friends. We were a bunch of Gittimerites. We all followed Jeffrey Gittimer. Eric Bam just released his book, Dreaming Again.
Hey, congratulations, Eric. He's a wizard, like a good wizard.
I'm not going to claim that I coached him, but I did give him some tips that got him over the hump and helped him actually add a hardback version of his book. And he was just going to do paperback to start. So I said, hey, you can do hardback very easily. Here's what you need to do. And he's a man of action. So, so Eric, actually, I'm going to give him credit. We were in this little group. We called ourselves the Mega Mind.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Randy. Love Randy too. And
thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Makes it more fun. We're having a party.
Yep.
Yeah, helped you over the hump. Love it.
So I actually give Eric credit. I was just randomly talking about my book. It wasn't a big thing. I just, I wrote a book called Customer Delight. And he's like, tell me about it. I need a copy of that. And so I sent him a copy, and then everybody in the group's like, send me a copy. And then I'm like, man, this book's expensive to ship. I'm sending out all these copies. It's thick. It's expensive to buy. And, my motto is I actually want people to read my book. I don't actually care if they buy it. I literally just want it in the hands of people. So I'm like, I give away books freely. So I was like, this book's kind of expensive to give out. And so if you were going to market your book and use it as, like I say, it's like a high-end business card. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself to somebody in long form.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Hope to meet you someday.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you. We're finding out the secret here of how we moved to hardback. Hi, Eric. Good evening and God's blessings to all. May we all get our books out there at our second one and our third one. And as Grace Cavalera's case, her 30th one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll catch up to Grace someday, all of us together. I don't know. So
no, someday you just have to decide you want to do that.
Yep. So yeah, I have about 4 or 5 in the development stage myself right now. So I'm gonna have to use my own coaching on myself. So
good idea.
But so I sent these books out. Eric actually started talking about it. Another coach, Phil Gilks, I don't know if you know Coach Phil.
Of course.
He started actually using my book in his daily podcast and reading out of it every day. And so it just kind of reintroduced me to something I kind of like took a break from after, releasing it in 2016. And so I'm like, wait, this is something that really brought me a lot of joy. And, things were a little crazy. I mentioned I'm in the event industry. In 2020, we lost 90% of our business in 14 days. And so, you kind of start reassessing life a little bit. So we've since recovered tremendously and we're back on the right track. And so I was soul searching. I stepped into this little 30-day writing challenge on LinkedIn. And it was like, hey, here's how you write on LinkedIn daily. And the guy who was running the course said, if you post to LinkedIn for 2 years in a row, it'll change your life. I'm like, I'm going to cash that check, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I made the commitment that I'm going to post to LinkedIn for 2 years with the goal of, how do I find my voice? What's important to me? What's my message? What's my core message? And so I just started writing, and about 6 months in, I started realizing working with coaches, speakers, writing books was something that I wanted to do. I felt like it was the ultimate personal brand asset. It's still, even in today's AI world, it's still one of the best ways to stand out from the competition with a book. So I've been rambling there for a while.
That's okay. But you brought up the world of AI.
Yeah.
What's most important in the world of AI for us to embody and make friends with and use properly and protect ourselves properly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go on the record and say I am a huge fan of AI. I use it regularly. I use ChatGPT. I use Claude.ai. I try to use as many AI tools as possible. But what I do know, it's not a substitute for writing. It's an asset to your writing. But what I love, what I think is important right now, and I think it really ties well, my day job and my side hustle are very well synchronized. And I think events and books are the answer to an uncertain world of AI. There's a big lack of trust in, is this real in today's world? And so the way we're going to stand out in an AI world, because everybody's like, did he write that book, or did he just go to ChatGPT and click, write a book on customer delight? So I think, a book is still the ultimate personal branding asset to build trust. I was talking to you earlier today, Cynthia, and I said, hey, anytime you go to a conference, you're on a webinar and somebody gets introduced, they're like, Cynthia Manion, she works for X company for 10 years. I know you haven't been in business for that long, about 10 years. And then she has done X, and it usually the punctuation is, and she is the author of The Black Pearl or Savannah Seas. It's like, still in an AI world, it's the ultimate brand asset. And so I think it's one way to cut through the AI clutter. Daytime job, talk about the live event industry. What's better than being in person with somebody? That's one way to know you're talking to somebody real. So my goal is to build, how do we build trust in a world that distrusts everything that's coming out? And these are two opportunities is to do this. And I think, I like a lot of, take it a step further. Thanks, Eric. I think he's talking about Randy Chaffee, the hybrid man, cyborg from the first.
But you have a two-pronged approach to your writing your books. And Grace wants to know, do you use the same format for each book?
Yeah. So I typically coach people on a very consistent format. I will work with people on traditional format books, but let's get back to the original question. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling like crazy. But like I said, this book's too thick. And also, it took me quite a while to write. I went ahead and wrote 400 entries so I could pare it down to the best 365. It probably took me about 5 to 6 months to deploy this book. And so I was like, how can we do this quicker? What's more manageable? What's more affordable? So I came up with what I thought would be a weekly model, 52 entries. And so we don't call it necessarily Customer Delight 52. You can, but I worked with a lady named Cindy Cohn, not Cynthia. And she wrote a book called More Joy. And, the way this happened, this is also part of the story of how I got into this. Cindy, somebody I built a relationship with on LinkedIn. We just were getting along great. And she's like, oh, you've written a book. How'd you go about it? She's like, I want to write a book by my 52nd birthday. Can you help me? And I'm like, when's your birthday? She's like, September. I go, well, that's like 90 days away. She's like, I go, well, I have an idea for you. And this is it. I said, you got to do a book, a 52 book. It's going to be a quote and a passage, 52 of them. It's 4 stories for the quarters of the year. Each, like a deck of cards, you break it down into quarters. There's 13 entries per quarter or 13 weeks. And each quarter has a theme. Like Cindy went with her books on joy, but her
Mary Riley loves that. She says, good name for the book.
That is wonderful.
She could be referring to your book or the books you mentioned, but thank you, Mary Riley. Nice to see you.
We'll take it for both of us. So Customer Delight 360. So the 4 pieces of the puzzle for her, for joy, are peaceful mindset, love, faith, and hope. So each quarter, it focuses on that particular topic. And so if you're writing a book on customer service, you might do one on I didn't do my book that way, unfortunately, but you might go ahead. One might be on customer satisfaction. I actually go as far as saying delight is different than satisfaction. Satisfaction is, is mere satisfaction. It's okay. Where delight actually changes you. It connects to your heart. So yeah, not enough joy in the world. You'll have to have Cindy on the show. She's wonderful, by the way. So
love to. I love a Cindy, and I love joy. So
yeah.
And we can certainly use more of all of it and more customer service. I really think this should be required reading for the world.
No, I love it too, because I actually have a friend who did not know it. One of my clients, she worked at a hotel, and I gave her a copy of my book, but she went on to a new job, and she left my book behind at this job. But it's a client, it's a hotel. And so the new director of sales at the hotel finds my book and does not really realize it, but she's like, I like it. And so they used it for their stand-up meeting, and they would read it, and they posted it on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh my God, I love it.
Oh, wonderful. Good for you. That's that.
Yeah. So, the idea is it's a companion for the year. I have a colleague at the office, Catherine, and she's a big fan of mine. We've been really good friends. And, a couple times a year, she sends me a note. Hey, I read this today. I pulled this passage up. And so it's really just about having something that you can quickly draw some inspiration. Customer service is not easy. And so, you're on the front lines, and, how can you recharge? How can you get a new perspective? And so that's the idea. And that's the idea of all these books, is that, they're quick access. We talked about building trust. The other thing about this is not a one-time book. Okay. You're not going to read it from cover to cover and put it down, because it's meant to be read throughout the year. So you're going to put it on your desk. You're going to flip through it. Let's see what Cindy actually has a proverb. A joyful heart is a good medicine, and a cheerful mind works healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. And she got a pretty long passage here, but she tells a story about her Nana living to 100 years old here.
Oh,
And, she just remembers the love that she got from her Nana. And, it just goes on to that one person can make such an impact in your life. And so it's like, the idea is that you're opening this up, getting a little dose, and go take the world on. And so that's my vision for the model of my book. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself, like, hey, this is my thought. This is how I think. It's meant to be loose, not overly serious. And then I also told you, how do I know this is the ultimate trust builder? Because it breaks through to the bedroom. I yeah. How do you get in somebody's bedroom? I mean, you have to be trustworthy to make it. And so books make it to nightstands, And so, I mean, what kind of trust do you have to have from somebody to make it into their bedroom? And books are that thing. And so that's why I say a book's still the ultimate trust tool.
So what inspired you to help others take action on unleashing their passion to get their books done?
Well, I like I said earlier, I've just been passionate about personal development my entire life. It's something that I don't know. I just woke up in my teens. Actually, there is my dad actually ended up running a personal development seminar company called Life Success Seminars, and
there we go. There's the thread.
But it wasn't necessarily, my inspiration for that predates that, but that definitely put me in the environment of spending a lot of my life in the personal development industry. And it just is at the kind of like the core of who I am. But what I love about writing is it's an opportunity to express yourself. I think our ultimate goal in life is to be seen for who we are and to share that unique person inside of you. And so by writing a book, you get an opportunity to give people a glimmer of that. And I think at the end of our life, they say people, regret is the thing that they have. I regret I didn't do this. I think people regret that they never showed up with their true self. They never took that risk. And I think that's my goal in life, is to help people show up as their true self at any moment, at any time, because that's the only way you're going to truly feel fulfilled, is if you've actually taken that chance and allowed another human to say, you're okay. I like you. You're good. Because otherwise you don't know. You didn't take the risk, and you're always going to wonder. And so I think a book's a great avenue for that. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
So ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that? Stop it. It's your life.
Yeah. I mean,
end and go, what do I want it to be? And go, okay. And then build it so that you get there, because you only got this one life. And what are you doing to share that gift that's inside of you? Brian can help you write a book.
Yeah, I did. I did probably about 20 years ago, like TED Talks, Ignite speeches, things like that. I did one called Bring Yourself to Work Day. And so the idea is that, so many people check their best selves at the door. And I think that's so sad. And so that's always been like my goal in life, is how do you show up as your real self everywhere you go? And it's tough. It's scary. But that,
no, it's liberating. It's life.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Look at Eric. Express yourself. Yes, sir.
Eric, different Eric, but Eric Bam usually sends in a message.
Yeah, we got 3 Erics on here. Wow. One of them's a birthday man. Woohoo! Mary Riley. Yes.
No, Eric
Bam. To be before you start listening to all the stuff from society and parents and spouses and whatever, because if you stop and listen to that, they down deep, right? In fact, Glenn Morshower was just saying today on a podcast, they always say, well, where'd you know that from? Down deep. Not from your elbow, not from your shoulder, not from your earlobe. You knew it down deep. So Brian's saying, go now, down deep now, and take action.
Go now, down deep now. That's got got some good alliteration there. I love it.
Bam! So how do your experiences in the event industry shape your approach to personal and professional development? Because it's all intertwined. Because your book's about customer service, which is what you're doing in your event and audio presentations and meeting all those celebrities and pulling it all together. You've got a nice little passion here going. You can ignite the field, as they say, or make it sweeter with some honey.
Yeah, oh, yeah, there you go. You're good. You're good. I have to hire you.
We can discuss it later.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So, yeah, I mean, so how's it all tie together? I mean, I think it comes down to, well, one is I think I've just always been engaged in what I do. Like I don't approach the event industry. I'm in the audiovisual production side of things. I always say we make it big, we make it loud, we make it bright, we make it impressive. But I think the most important thing is you're always focused on what's the outcomes, what are the goals of the organization. I always like to know, when people leave this conference, how are they going to be different? How have you changed them? And if you haven't changed them, you haven't done your job when you meet. And so I take that very personally as being a person who's in personal development and saying, you're going to bring, let's say a conference brings 300 people together. If people don't change, you've wasted 300 people's time. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of resources. And so events are expensive. And so I believe in the value and the ROI is what you take away from it and do differently on the backside of the event, not what happens at the event. And so that ties into just my whole approach to life. And it's been a great asset. I think some other things, I'm always a big fan, like I've got to see all of the best keynote speakers in the world.
Who's your favorite? Top 3.
Oh man, I need to work on this.
Okay, no worries. No worries. There are so many good ones.
There is a gentleman out of Ohio. His name is John Petz. He's a great friend of mine. He started out in magic and now he does keynote speeches, and it's been great to watch him grow. He did have for a while, his platform was no more boring meetings. Bore no more was his theme. And so of course I love that. You and I, Jeffrey Gitomer was probably my first fanboy. And I could say we're here together because of Jeffrey Gitomer. And so Jeffrey came in and, the Hilton Cincinnati Hotel was one of my accounts. And he came into Cincinnati for whatever reason. He said people in Cincinnati loved him. So he did a lot of public seminars. He'd come in annually. And so I was always doing his show, told him how much I loved him. And numerous times when he came into town, we'd test his mics and we'd go for a walk for 4 hours and he would look for rare books and things like that. And so I just love Jeffrey Gitomer. He's the real deal. And he shows up as himself too. So that's where I picked that up. So.
And do you have all his books, all autographed?
They're not all autographed. I believe I have all of his books. He's got a lot of books. I'd have to go through the list and see, but that is the other advantage of working with him. Yeah. The Get Man.
Yeah. We remember those 959s.
959s. Yeah.
That was a great thing during the pandemic. That was a very good marketing tool to bring and make a family internationally signing on at 9:59 just to chat and check in and learn something and share and see how easy it is to do a podcast and learn from everybody and see everyone in their little box. It's so much fun now when I get to hug someone out of their box. I'm like, oh, you're taller, you're shorter, you're wider, you're thinner, you're smarter, you're bald. Oh my goodness. I had no idea.
Well, everybody's the same height on a podcast. So until you meet them in person.
Way back like that, so they look like they're more little, and some of them sit like this, so they look like they're more big.
Now I have that problem all the time with my my event business clients. I do get to meet them in person and they'll be like, Brian. I'm like, oh, I thought you were taller. So,
that just happened to me with one of my people in my little family. And one of them was like way taller. I was like, oh, this is so fabulous. One of them was like, I'm like, you have such a big presence on camera. I can't believe you're so little. I can pick you up. It's so fun being live as
Hmm.
in your events.
Well, and I do want to track that back, and I do applaud you. A lot of podcasts and live streams are not live streams anymore. A lot of people are pre-recording, and I appreciate that it does change the energy when you're like, hey, people are watching and we got the comments coming in. It's a different experience. It really is. If you and I were just recording this in isolation of all the Erics and
Yeah,
um
it wouldn't be nearly as fun, and
it,
we wouldn't be touching so many people. And look
yeah,
at it's ready for a reunion already.
yep. And Mary, we got out there, and Grace, so Sandy. So yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have any of those people cheering us on. So live is where it's at in an AI world. I do want to go back to something else. Actually, there is one thing that totally changed my life in the course of my career, and it is Jeffrey Gitomer. I remember being in one of his public seminars, and he always ended his talks like this: "My name is Jeffrey Gitomer, and I deliver value first." That's how he closed. I don't know how he does them now, but back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's how he closed them out. And I just was like, that's a good motto. And I took that on for myself, is that I'm going to deliver value first in everything that I do. And I made that my focus for my career, is that I always would show up with something first, and it's paid off dearly. It's never failed me. That's all I can say.
Have you told them?
I've told Jeffrey.
Podcast, don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, wait, let's go to page day one of my book. So let's go to day one. Actually, I lied. I thought he was day one in my book. He's day 6. Sorry, Jeffrey. I thought he was day one, but Jeffrey's quote is, "Memorable customer service can only take place in a human to human situation." So that quote's at least 2016 old. So I thought I was one who came up with this person to person thing, but he already told me that years ago.
And it works.
It works. So yeah, I mean,
that's day 6. So tell us about the 90-day knockout process.
Yeah. So, the idea is that actually, I forget about this. So when I started writing my book, I started like most people did. I got out like a Word document, and I started like just typing away at it. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to write these entries. And, I got probably about 20 of them done. And I'm like, how do I keep track of this? And did I write that quote already? And I feel like now I'm like scrolling through the document. I'm like, this is going to be out of control before you know it. So I had this little idea, and I said, hey, I'm going to use a Google survey to write my book. And so I made a tiny little Google survey, and the Google survey was simply this. It was 5 questions. It was quote author, Brian's take, a link to where I found the quote, and notes. Okay. And so the idea is that at any moment, I only had to write 1 page of my book. All right. Sounds like we got a little secret going, little crosstalk here in the chat here, Randy and Eric.
Please tell. We love it.
Yeah. So we may have to bring them on and find out what this little secret is, but no. So, the idea is that never was I faced with anything more than writing 1 single entry at a time. And what it did is it populated the book into a spreadsheet. And so I was able to go back and sort by author name and see, oh, I got Jeffrey Gitomer in here 6 times. Oh, I actually did that quote, because when you're taking 3 or 4 months to write a book, and I'm just saying, going by inspiration, and I go get this quote from Jeffrey, there was probably about 10 different times where I actually picked the same quote, thinking it's the first time I'm sitting down to write it. And I'm like,
must be a really good quote. We love good quotes. They stick with you.
So I really wrote probably like 430 of them, if you count the times I used the same quote multiple times and came up with a new passage. What was fun is some of them, when you came up with I had the same thoughts on it, and sometimes I had wildly different thoughts on it. And that would actually be fun to go back and look. I never even thought about sharing how I approached the same quote twice in the book. But no,
You can do
so
a whole podcast on that.
yeah. So I just kind of like feel like I stumbled onto something pretty interesting. So what was fun about it is, I would go into the coffee shop, I said I committed to 3 times a week, and I determined, hey, I can do 6 to 10 of these in an hour. So I would sit down at the coffee shop and say, I'm going to get 10 done. And it was just like, Jeffrey Gitomer's quote, or, Ralph Waldo Emerson, beauty without expression is boring. Bam, click, click, write my passage, dot, 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 submit. Got a fresh page, new quote. And so that's where you can do this 90 days fast, is because you don't have a lot of distraction. You're not trying to think of a story arc. You're not trying to like do all this strategizing and character development. I know you've written fiction books. I can't even imagine. I'm not even going to touch that. That's not my area of expertise. So, that's the essence of the book. And then I recommend that you add stories to the book. So, quotes in little passages are not enough to fully introduce yourself. So pick out 3 to 4 stories that tie in, that are kind of origin stories for you or your topic, that go in a little deeper and display what you're trying to say in your book. Like, here's a real life example of a customer service scenario that I went through, and this is how it worked out. And most people are smart enough to say, oh, that kind of relates to what Brian's been trying to say for the past 365 days. If you're smart. I mean, so that's it in a nutshell. And I know, maybe, does that sound fancy? I don't know, but it works. Cindy was able to get her book done in under 90 days. I am working with somebody now. We're taking a little bit longer than 90 days. She's going with a little bit different format. She's going with a 90-day plan related to, she's in a health related industry. And so we're doing a 90-day version of it. So it's going to take us probably about 4 to 5 months to do because it's almost just shy of double the book. But I've got it down to a science. I actually have a spreadsheet that tells you where you click and see how long you are. And I've assigned times, and you can go click your little buttons, and it says you got 22 hours left to finish this book. And so,
Wow.
what it does is it gives people those little carrots, like, hey, I got to get 10 of these done today. And people do well with that. It's very defined, not like I'm going to write this chapter that's very just all over the board and rambling, just like I am this entire night. So, and how do I turn that into a concrete thought? So
You might have something there. Artists could use it too. Painters, when they're under a deadline. I know an artist that always had a calendar and was always like doing the last 6 months right before it was due. And I think that would be something that might be marketable.
Well, I am working on, so it's in the early stages. I'm working with probably about 5 clients right now on the exact process. I've worked with some other people on just some traditional books where they're, 12 chapters, 3 sections, and just some, that's easy to do at the end of the day. But, as I work with people, I'm trying to get the process down to something that's just very succinct and clean. And so, I'm not afraid to say that it's a work in progress, and you keep talking about action. And so, my belief is that I just like to live in action all the time. Every day is an opportunity to push the chains forward. Every day is a little bit of ground to take. And I try, I'm just Brian doing the best I can every day. And so I want to help people do that as well. And so little things add up to a book, a daily submission on a Google survey eventually becomes a book that's big and fat and 400 pages long and $9 to buy and, $7 to ship. And so that's why I wanted to do something a little thinner. So.
So what advice do you have for someone who gets stuck and is unsure of how to take their first step? Besides, just do it.
Well, I would definitely I have another thing I call it luscious writing. I said you have to find a place that is luscious. I have a coffee shop. It's called Red Tree, and it's actually called Red Tree Art with Coffee, and it's both an art gallery and a coffee shop. And
Ah,
I wrote 90% of this book there. And what I loved about it is it just was a great place to go. So find that coffee shop or that environment that brings you absolute joy. And then you have to make a date with yourself. You have to be willing to say, I am going to show up on this day. And you don't let yourself get distracted. Like I am going to write. I'm also a big fan of I don't know what I'm going to say, and I'm writing about what I don't know what to say. But if I were going to write about something right now, I would write about this until you get your momentum going. And so I'm writing about how I don't know what I want to write about right now. And I'm annoyed that I don't have an idea what to write about. And I don't feel like writing right now. And eventually you'll be like, this is stupid. And I want to talk about customer service. So that
so
would be my tip. You just literally need to start clicking that keyboard.
so the importance of resilience and perseverance to that journey.
Yep. Now you keep bringing up a topic, and I do want to bring this up. And I have a personal motto, and it says, "Action precedes passion."
Yes, tell us about that.
Yeah. So here's what most people do: they think they're going to find passion first,
And
okay,
nothing happens.
and nothing happens. So they're waiting. They're
Oh,
out.
there's great advice. She has a book in the works. Woohoo! Way
All
to
right.
go, Sandy.
Awesome, Sandy. Make sure you send me a note. I buy everybody's book that I meet personally, and I consider that we've met personally. So,
Woohoo!
um, so yeah, where were we? I got lost there for a second. So action precedes.
You buy everyone's books, and action before passion.
Yeah. So here's the deal with that. You've heard probably The Passion of Christ. I remember when I heard that movie was called The Passion of Christ. Mel Gibson's in it, I believe, or he was the producer. I'm like, what is the Passion of Christ? I always think of the word passion as being like heavy love and like almost like a positive thing, and it's all about, I'm like, how, this movie about Jesus getting crucified, how is it passion? What does that have to do with passion? And so then when I looked up the word passion, the roots of passion, in Latin is pain. The word passion revolves around pain. And so that makes sense to me. Okay. The pain of Christ. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, they say they want passion, right? Okay. But it's painful. And so that's the reason why they're not finding it, because most people are avoiding pain. And here's the deal. You know how you have pain? You actually have to do something. When you take action, you're lifting weights, your muscles break, you burn, and then you have passion. Your muscles grow back bigger. So of course you're not finding passion first. You have to take that action so that you create some pain, you create that burn, and then the passion shows up. And then the passion drives you, it gives you that extra energy, that drive to find purpose. And then my current model is action, passion, publish. So, once you get into action,
Yeah.
and that's my app, by the way, APP, action, passion, publish. Still working on that one, but,
Cute.
But yeah, so you got to feel the pain. Passion's not this little fluffy little, oh man, I love you so much. No, passions, I'm in the throes of it. So that's my motto. You gotta get busy, take action, get dirty, start writing a crappy book. And by the way, if this book sucks, it's better than the book you didn't write. My book that sucks beats any book that's not written. That's my opinion about anything. Anybody who does something over somebody who does nothing is better, period. And so you gotta get done. You gotta get moving. You shouldn't have brought me on the show. I'm getting on some kind of high horse.
What legacy
I'm getting on a soapbox tonight.
Hey, it's great. It's great. What legacy do you hope to leave through your work? How do you hope to impact those people? You're going to get them off. I mean, you got to move through the passion so you can appreciate the win, because you might not know it if you didn't like go through it and go. Now you're like, when you open your box, the first book, and take it out, publish, it's like,
Oh man, how was that for you, by the way?
I did a whole video on it.
Yeah, so there is nothing more exciting than getting a copy of your book delivered to your home. I mean, it is like, it's
So
Christmas.
Sandy, Eric, Randy, just wait until your books come out. It's Eric B. We got Eric B, Eric F.
We got Eric B,
R,
Flournoy, and Eric Am. So,
and Eric Rodriguez.
Eric
Love
Rodriguez.
that, Brian. Your book is better than mine. Thanks for the kick. That's only because yours isn't out yet, Sandy. Give him a run for his money. Woohoo! Oh, Taru. Hi, Taru.
Love Taru. He's another good Gittimer friend.
Yes.
He wasn't he always the first one on Gittimer every
I don't know. I think I was. I think we used to race for it. It was fun. It was fun. But back to your legacy, because if you start with your legacy and work backwards, you'll definitely get there if you take action.
So I think so by the way, I haven't thought of this, okay, but you've prompted me to think about it, and I think I need to look for a legacy, and I'm just talking out loud, and I need to dial this in, but some kind of legacy on a certain number of people writing books and writing their first book. And that's one thing I focus on is, yes, I can help people write their second and third books. That's not a problem. But I think my specialty is getting that first book, getting that momentum, and getting things moving. So I think a good goal would be that my legacy is that I inspired 500 people to write a book and actually did it. Now, I am going to tell a story. My dad has a book called Chico's Promise about his time in Vietnam, and he made an audacious goal to save 50,000 shelter dogs. And so that's what his legacy is. And so I don't know that I'm going to say I'm going to help 50,000 people write books. Maybe I will, but
why not?
Yeah, but I want to pick my goal. So, let's start with 500 right now. And but my hope is that people will write a book that brings them joy and allows them to introduce themselves to the world and show up as that real self that they are. That would be my legacy.
And are you helping them publish it? And are you helping them get it out to the world? And how are we going to get them read?
Yeah. So I do help people with self-publishing. I'm happy to, part of my process is going through the process of using KDP, Amazon self-publishing, getting their book uploaded, having it edited and, format it, all of those other more technical aspects of it. I'm not about marketing a book. I can help people with marketing ideas. I do marketing for a living in my sales job, but my goal is to serve people in actually writing their book and getting it done, not necessarily being a bestseller. Or fine if you want to go that route, but that's not my expertise.
How do you continue to grow your own personal self and evolve? What do you do for Brian?
Well, right now, I'm very focused on my theme for the year is I want to be congruent. Okay. And I want to be congruent with what I'm asking other people to do in their life. So that means I'm fully focused on my health. I have sleep apnea. I'm supposed to wear a CPAP for years, and I'm sharing a lot of personal information here, but I made a commitment. I'm going to do that this year, and I got committed to that. I'm going to a nutritionist. I'm working out at a boot camp. And so, I got to walk the talk. And so if I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to be in front of people. I'm going to ask them to live their best lives. I need to be a good example of that. And I don't need to be hard on myself about it. But I want to be congruent with the life I'm presenting other people. And so I'm really on an all out effort to show up in the highest level right now.
Excellent. Excellent. So you have a morning routine? I always like morning routines.
I don't have just this absolute. My morning routine was, I actually have taken a little bit of a break from writing. I've been on, I mentioned I was on a 2-year writing a project for LinkedIn, and I finished that up.
730 days.
730 days. I ended up going about 750. But I burned myself out probably about April. So I've slowed myself down just a touch, and I'm just kind of re-entering writing. But I love to write from about 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning is my favorite time to write before everybody else is awake in the house. So
Yeah.
and so I'm starting to get back into that again and have that regular pattern. So
I have a side question. So did your dad save all those dogs?
he's still working on it. I don't know what his account is, but
We want to know. Let us know next time.
yeah, so yeah, my dad was a scout dog handler in Vietnam, and his
I
dog.
saw a picture with and I was
Somewhere
there was like a little flag in the crack of bricks with this a scout dog.
Yep, and his dog saved a whole platoon, and he got and so
Wow.
So my dad actually went back to Vietnam with a friend, probably about 10 years ago, and he just realized, he goes, well, they had to euthanize his dog Chico, and he was just devastated when he thought about it, and he said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change. I want to save dogs' lives, because my daughter actually just snuck down into my studio here. Is she gonna sneak on?
Hey, I'm Cynthia. Nice to meet you.
All right, I'm on a show right now, Hans.
Oh,
okay. I'll catch you in a minute.
Great. And then we're going to find out if you're going to help your dad write his books about saving his dogs.
No, so the idea is that my dad did write it. It's already out there, and that's what the story of it is. But my daughter wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Chico, and Chico totally changed the trajectory of our family. And so it's special, and that's why I'm sharing it, because Chico saved if my dad died, it got blown up by that booby trap, we're not here. A whole life arc changed by one dog.
Ooh, think about that, folks. So everything you do matters.
Everything
built and made perfectly.
Yep. I mean, 50.
Go out there and express yourself and write your book and do all the wonderful things that are deep inside and make it happen, because life is short.
Life is short.
And you've only been given this much. So there's your parentheses. What are you going to do in there?
Yeah. I mean, right now, this is all we got. If you're listening this to right now, this is all you have. Live your best right this moment.
Any more questions out there? Sandy's like, oh, Chico's a legend. Yes.
Yeah. Look up Chico's Promise. So my dad has written 8 books, by the way. So he's well on his way as well. So.
Oh, very nice. Maybe we should have him on the show. Tell us about his book.
Yeah, he's a character. You definitely invite him on the show. You'll enjoy him. So
I have to read the book first, or the books.
Yeah, you definitely want a little time. You'll be crying for sure.
And you served in the Marine Corps for a few years.
Yeah, I was 4 years in the Marines, and that definitely is probably, I taught my Gittimer influence, and then my a business influence, and then Marines definitely up there, and this little action passion guy. So,
and you met your beautiful little redhead.
Mm-hmm.
And she moved on your street. How about that for the universe setting you two up?
Yeah,
that like it was.
Yeah, she stalked me, or something like that. That's what I say. But yeah, we found our hearts found each other.
See, love conquers all.
Yep.
And then you had this beautiful little daughter.
Yep, she's quite a joy. I love her. She's 15. Just got a job at Chick-fil-A. So
that's wonderful.
Yep. And customer service. I was like, yeah, please. They're one of the best customer service companies in the world. And so I'm excited for her to get a good base for her life. She wants to go into hospitality.
Of course she does.
Yeah.
Lovely. How absolutely lovely. We are so excited to have you tonight. And how can everyone reach you? Eric will put up, my Eric R., who's the birthday man, will put up your website here. You've got 2 websites. So if you are, and here's his personal website.
Yep. Head over.
Books. Go ahead.
Yeah, head over to brianmonahan.me. I actually just re-released this, and I was talking to Cynthia. Hey, if you go out and find a typo, or you're like, Brian, that looks hideous, and I actually make a change to my website, uh, I'll send you a signed copy of my book. So
Woo-hoo!
go out and check out brianmonahan.me and send me what's wrong with it. So I've cleaned up about 5 or 6 things over the last few days. So but I'm sure there's some Easter eggs of typos in there still. So do what you can for me. And then, prestigeav.com. If you're looking to have a phenomenal event, you run a conference, trade show, sales meeting. We make it big, we make it loud. We do great work. So find me at either of those places. You can get to prestigeav.com via my other website too. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I do want to add one thing. I do have a weekly newsletter called The Right Time. So you go to brianmonahan.me and click on newsletter. And we have weekly inspiration for aspiring authors. So I encourage you to go out there and sign up for that as well. So I'm taking a little advantage here. Thanks, Eric, for popping that back up.
Perfect. And share this out. Let other people know, because everyone wants to write a book, and look at how many people aren't. So Brian's here to help, and look at his email, and we will see you on the other side. Let us know when you have your book out. Maybe we'll have you on the Cynthia Manion Show.
Woohoo!
And wish Eric Rodriguez a happy birthday. Woohoo! And if it's your birthday, have a happy one. Thank you so much for joining, and live your best life. Listen to your heart, and you know what's going on deep down.